Elon Musk asks shocking question that changes lives of millionaires, homeless, and Donald Trump. The city was humming, a pulse of neon lights and digital chatter, when the message dropped. Everyone saw it, a headline blazing across every screen. Elon Musk asks shocking question that changes lives of millionaires, homeless, and Donald Trump. It was impossible to ignore. In this near-future metropolis, where drones zipped like insects and skyscrapers blinked with streaming ads, the countdown started everywhere. 0, 0, 0, 0 until the question revealed itself. Whispers exploded in crowded streets, swarming elevators, and silent subway rides. People stopped. Faces lit by glows from cracked screens, eyes wide, heartbeat thudding fast. Luke watched from a grimy bench in an alley he barely called home. Once, he had owned towers like these, had money spilling out his pockets, companies riding high on dreams and tech. Now the suit he wore was stiff with age and the smell of forgotten hope. It lit something fragile inside him, a flicker he'd thought long dead. The app Elon Musk was hyping, Truth Dive, was spreading like wildfire among the elite and the lost alike. Supposedly, it asked questions so deep, so raw, they stripped your soul bare. People said it changed lives overnight. Millionaires revealed dark lies, drifters found strange peace, and Trump, well, nobody knew what happened with him exactly. Luke's trembling fingers hesitated before tapping the download. The screen blazed to life with a dark swirl of colors. The first question popped up, elegant but brutal. What is the true price of your fortune? Cold sweat slicked over Luke's palms. Memories stabbed sideways, secret deals, backroom bribes, faces betrayed. He answered quietly, voice broken. A strange pulse surged through the app, syncing with his heartbeat, sinking with his guilt. Suddenly, his phone buzzed violently. Another user appeared in his feed. The screen split, revealing a pale, haunted face. Donald. The man was a ghost in the shadows of Luke's past, a recluse who carried secrets almost as heavy. Donald's eyes locked with Luke's, filled with regret and fear. "We're tangled deeper than you think," Donald whispered over the crackling connection. "This app's more than questions. It's a trap, a puzzle that's tearing this city apart. We have to stop it." Outside, the city's heartbeat faltered. Screens flickered. People froze mid-step, whispering rumors of unrest, fights breaking out, protests swelling. Something was unraveling, fast. Luke's heart hammered as the app fed them more. Hidden agendas, buried secrets, moral lines blurring. Questions spilled over, forcing choices harder than knives. Luke fought his demons, torn between craving redemption and the seductive pull of his old life's power. Donald wrestled shadows from his own past, secrets clawing to the surface. The fragile bond between them twisted, strained with every new revelation. Then, the message they never expected arrived. A truth about the app's creator that shook the ground beneath their feet. Elon Musk wasn't just a face behind the screen. There was something darker, more dangerous, lurking beneath the billionaire's smile. They stared at the screen. The next question blinked into view. It wasn't just personal anymore. It promised to shape everything. Their fate, the city, maybe the world. Luke's breath caught. Donald's jaw clenched. The silence screamed louder than any warning. What will they do when the next question hits? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! Luke's breath caught. Donald's jaw clenched. The silence screamed louder than any warning. The next question blinked into view. What will you sacrifice for clarity? Before Luke could process the weight of those words, the app vibrated violently again. Another split screen lit up, this time showing chaos. A live feed burst forth from the skyscraper roof just across the street. The scene unfolded like a nightmare. An explosion, flash, smoke, screams. The camera panned over, revealing a familiar face amid the turmoil. A wealthy man, a titan of industry. Luke's heart sank. It was Morgan, the man whose betrayal had driven Luke to destruction. Morgan was holding a device, shouting something about the truth as the world burned around him. Luke, listen, Donald's voice shook. This app, it's being misused. Whoever controls it is aiming for something bigger, something darker. We need to. Suddenly, a piercing shriek cut through the crackling static. Both men flinched as the screen flickered, swirling clouds of ash and debris interrupting their exchange. Then, almost unfathomably, the feed cut to a new perspective. An anonymous user, cloaked in shadows, suddenly appearing on the screen. "Who are you?" Luke breathed, heart racing. The figure leaned in closer, breath steady, but voice cold. "You're all pawns in a game that you can't comprehend. The app was never meant for redemption. It's a litmus test, a weapon, and you've already failed." Luke's gut twisted. "Failed? What do you mean?" The figure laughed, a chilling sound. "You chose to play. Now, the stakes are higher than you know. The lives of millions hang in the balance. Each question asked leads to irreversible action. What do you truly value?" A siren wailed nearby, shattering the tension. Luke and Donald exchanged frantic glances. The city was in turmoil. Glimpses of fires spread from block to block, chaos coursing through the veins of the metropolis. The app kept feeding questions, and each one seemed to rip apart relationships, spark confrontations, incite fury. Then another voice cut through the disarray. A female anchor stepped onto the live feed, her eyes wide with terror. "Breaking! The city is in lockdown. Reports of a coordinated attack originating from the Truth Dive app. Users are urged to delete the app immediately." But Luke felt paralyzed. Delete it? No, it was too late. He was already ensnared. And then the figure's laughter echoed in his mind. Each question asked leads to irreversible action. "Donald!" Luke shouted, panic rising. "What if it's a trap? All of it? What if we're not just playing along? What if we're meant to dismantle?" But before he could finish, the app buzzed one last time. New question. Are you willing to sacrifice another for your salvation? Look, the ground seemed to shake. Luke's eyes darted back to the screen, where Morgan was now surrounded. Chaos closing in. "Run!" he screamed. But the message crackled out with static, drowned by fear. Time felt thick as he turned to Donald, whose expression twisted in horror. There it was, a fracture, a crack. The fear in Donald's eyes morphed into something darker. Betrayal? Anger? Then Luke realized in a flash, nobody knew who they were anymore, what they would sacrifice, who they would trust. The very fabric of the city was shifting, unraveling, revealing colors he'd never known. "Nuke," Donald whispered, backing away. "Odds, what have we let in?" Luke's heart raced. The answer lingered just beyond the horizon. Something terrible, something that could unravel everything. Who was truly the puppet, and who the puppeteer? As the city raged on, the question remained suspended in the air, because now everything felt fragile. An earthquake of uncertainty rumbling, leaving only shadows of what they once were. What will you choose? Luke felt the weight tightening in his chest. Outside, sirens blared. The world spiraled into chaos. Would they fight or flee? Would they stand together or fall apart? The pulse of the city quickened, and all they had was time ticking away. Luke's breath caught. Donald's jaw clenched. The silence screamed louder than any warning. The next question loomed, threatening to burst the bubble they had just begun to navigate. The screen flickered, then flashed a new message. "Who do you trust most?" The simple query hit like a punch. Luke's heart raced. Memories whirled. People he had wronged, alliances he had destroyed. His skin prickled with dread. Then, before Luke could even process his thoughts, a loud crash echoed through the alley. Everyone jerked, heads snapping up as the city unraveled into chaos. A massive explosion shook the ground, rattling windows miles away. The chaotic chorus of screams followed, drowning out the digital whispers of the Truth Dive app. "What was that?" Luke shouted, clutching his phone like a lifeline. The frantic scrambling of heels on pavement and the frantic beeping of alarms swallowed his voice. Eyes glued to Donald's cracked screen, he watched as Donald spun in panic, the gray backdrop of his dimly lit room now awash with flashing red lights. "We have to get out of here!" Donald shouted. Distant fires glinted in the sky. Sirens wailed, merging with the groans of panicking crowds. Luke found his feet, adrenaline surging, pulling him to movement. He swiped at the app, but the screen froze, the question staring back at him with malicious intent. "Don't focus on the app now. Look!" Donald growled, and Luke's gaze locked onto the street. People poured from buildings, faces wide with horror. It wasn't just a fire. Something was burning. Something terrible. A man dashed past, shouting incoherently, eyes wild. "They're attacking! They know! They know everything!" The atmosphere thickened. Luke felt the weight land. The app wasn't just a mirror, it was a target. The secrets it revealed had turned into weapons. Something deeper was brewing, some vortex of betrayal, burying its claws into him and Donald alike. "What do you mean they know?" Luke yelled as they stumbled into the throng. "People want answers!" Donald hollered, desperation cracking his voice. "And by the looks of it, they'll stop at nothing to get them." A shadow flickered across Luke's mind, an image of boardrooms and hushed meetings, faces flashing. People from his past, money takers and backstabbers. Was that who was behind this? Amid the chaos, a familiar figure stepped forward, silhouetted against the flames. A woman with a silvery streak in her hair. A journalist Luke had once silenced with threats. Emily, her piercing gaze fierce and determined. She was not afraid, not retreating. She pointed at Luke and Donald. "There they are," she bellowed, her voice slicing through the storm. "They hold the truth." In that moment, the mob shifted. Faces contorted in rage. The air crackled with energy. Every gaze trained on them, hungry for retribution. Luke's breath hitched. Fear crawled under his skin. "Luke!" Donald shouted, pulling him away. But it was too late. Chaos erupted. People surged forward, pushing against each other, aiming toward Luke and Donald. Shouts rang out, accusations flying like arrows. The app wasn't just transforming their lives. It was fracturing the fragile balance of power. Luke stumbled back, eyes darting. How had the question turned into this? And as he tried to navigate the crowd, the app buzzed again. The words appeared, shaking the very ground beneath him. "Who is the traitor among you?" Luke met Donald's gaze for a split second, the air thick with realization. Could the answer be staring them in the face? Fear coursed through Luke's veins. What if? But before he could finish, the crowd roared, a wave of bodies crashing toward them. Everything spiraled. Trust, betrayal, choices no one could escape. And then he knew. The truth was yet to be revealed. But what was unfolding might tear apart everything he once believed about himself, and everyone he thought he could trust. Luke met Donald's gaze for a split second, the air thick with realization. Could the answer be staring them in the face? Fear coursed through Luke's veins. What if? But before he could finish, bodies slammed against them. Chaos erupted. The crowd was a tidal wave, relentless. People roared with rage, their voices a cacophony as they surged forward, eyes burning with accusations. Was it the app that had driven them to this, or the truth it had unlocked? Then, from deep in the crowd, a yell rang out, a cold voice that echoed like a gunshot. "Stop right there!" Luke's heart seized. He squinted through the crowd, trying to see who had shouted. Pagans or saints? No one would save them now, and that chill just penetrated him. From the throng emerged a figure silhouetted against the flickering flames. A woman, commanding, stepping into the dim light, a figure he recognized too well. "Emily!" he gasped. Her silhouette worn but fierce, eyes flickering with determination. She raised a hand, and just like that, silence fell. "What are you doing?" Luke shouted over the stunned crowd. "Save us, or get out of the way!" Emily didn't waver. She stepped closer. "You think this is chaos? This is the truth being unleashed." Luke was lost. How could she stand there, calm as the world fell apart? "The truth? You're part of this madness?" The tension in the air thickened. The crowd stood still, eyes darting between Luke, Donald, and Emily. Murmurs erupted, fingers pointing, judgment sparking like electricity. Then she spoke again, her voice steady and piercing. "Truth Dive isn't a trap. It's a reckoning, and you both are at the center." "What?" Donald's voice trembled, eyes wide. "You're saying we're responsible?" "Yes." Emily's gaze flared. She stepped forward, closer than ever, and an icy realization washed over Luke. The depths of her stare carried a history he wished to forget. "You don't know what you've unleashed." Luke flinched, memories flooding back, meetings drenched in deceit, whispers shared in hidden corners. Had they unknowingly set this chaos in motion? Out of nowhere, another figure stepped from behind Emily. A tall man with a knowing grin, a man Luke didn't expect to see again. Morgan. His presence snapped all air from the space, leaving behind an oppressive weight. "Did you miss me?" Morgan smirked, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "I see you've stirred the pot quite a bit." Rage ignited in Luke's gut. That was the last person he wanted to confront, the source of his downfall. "What are you doing here?" Morgan shrugged, casual as ever. "Just enjoying the show. And what a show it is. But I think you're missing the big picture." "What?" Donald asked, barely able to contain his frustration. "Is this a joke?" Morgan's eyes glimmered. "You think this app was randomly created? No. It ties us all together, shoves us to make choices, brings secrets to light. And who better to lead than you two?" Luke shook his head, disbelief coursing through his body. "So, you're admitting this was all planned?" A sharp smile broke across Morgan's face. "Oh, my dear Luke, this was only the beginning. You've become the pawns, but chess pieces can be moved." Before anyone could respond, the app buzzed violently yet again. The question appeared, stark and cold on the screen. "What lies are you willing to uphold for power?" The crowd stirred, eyes darting nervously from one face to another. The weight of the question hung heavily in the air. Luke's heart raced. Truth and lies swirled around him, tangled tighter than he could imagine. The world around him morphed. The chaos transformed into a mask that hid deeper motives. Morgan, Emily, they weren't just players. They were the architects of this ruin. Then, betrayal crashed over him like a wave. "What have you done?" Luke shouted, looking between the two of them, breaths trembling with the weight of deception. How had they all been caught in this labyrinth of lies? A furious crack of thunder shook the sky as the crowd panicked, whispers turning to shouts. Firelight flickered ominously. Life and death hung in the balance, and Luke was left to wonder if they were in control. Who was really pulling the strings? What choices would they have to make now to survive the storm? And who else would have to pay the price? Luke's breath caught, Donald's jaw clenched. The silence screamed louder than any warning. Then the app illuminated the final question, a stark command this time. What are you willing to destroy to keep your secrets safe? The words exploded like a bomb in the air. Luke's heart raced, his breath quickened. Suddenly, a sickening wave of dread washed over him. In that moment, everything froze. The bustling city, the swirling chaos around him. It felt like the ground was shifting underfoot. "Wait!" Luke gasped, his hands shaking. "This isn't what we signed up for!" Donald's face darkened, shadows creeping into the corners of his haunted eyes. "It's all a game, Luke. A twisted game. I didn't want to expose you, but we are deep in it now. You don't know what you're capable of." Before Luke could respond, the ground rumbled. Distant sirens blared, slicing through the tension like a knife. A loud crash echoed from the street, shattering the moment. Luke turned instinctively, and his eyes widened in horror. A massive drone surged past overhead, spiraling out of control. It smashed into a nearby skyscraper, sending shards of glass cascading down like rain. "Run!" Donald shouted, urgency snapping through his voice. Luke barely reacted, instincts taking over. He bolted as chaos enveloped the city, people screaming, scattering, running for safety. But something pulled him back, an unwavering voice tethering him to the app, to the question flashing relentlessly on his screen. "What are you willing to destroy?" He could feel it stirring inside him, but desperation to answer. Heart pounding, he clenched his phone, the cold glass biting into his palm. What secrets did he hold? What had he buried? Suddenly, the app blinked with alarming speed. A new video feed spooled out. Luke recognized the voice, Elon Musk himself. The camera flickered like a faulty bulb, but the image was clear, the intensity in his eyes sharp, cutting through the chaos. "Welcome, participants," Elon announced, his voice smooth yet commanding. "You're all players now. It's time to make choices that will shape everything. Except..." He paused, that familiar smile momentarily fading. "Some of you won't get to decide." A knot twisted in Luke's gut. "What does that mean?" he muttered, eyes darting back to Donald, who now looked even more pale. "What does he mean, Donald?" This isn't just an app, Luke. It's tracking us. It knows us." Donald's voice trembled, fear and panic igniting in his words. "We'd have to break free, or else we'll be consumed." As if on cue, the app buzzed violently again, a life-altering twist emerging on screen. "Your loyalties will be tested. Choose wisely." A pulse of energy surged up Luke's spine as fleeting images flashed. Faces of loved ones, glimmers of laughter, all intertwined with the dark web of forgotten betrayals. Just as the weight of these decisions crashed down on him like a heavy tide, another explosion reverberated through the air. Shudders ran through the ground, and people screamed, desperately searching for safety. But Luke couldn't move. Something had shifted forever. The game had changed. "Luke, focus!" Donald shouted, desperate. Could he break free? Could they escape this descent into madness? And how would their secrets come to light? The next question loomed. Every moment ticked louder than an alarm, threatening, all-consuming. Luke stared at the screen, heart racing, mind racing. What truth awaited? What darkness lay ahead? And more terrifying, who would emerge whole at the end? Luke's breath caught. Donald's jaw clenched. The silence screamed louder than any warning. They had faced their demons. But this new question, it wasn't just haunting. It was commanding. A weight pressing down on a fragile truce. Suddenly, the app pulsed with an ominous glow. A notification slid down the screen, bright and demanding. It read, "Are you ready to sacrifice everything?" A chill rushed through Luke, freezing him in place. Everything? What did that even mean? He felt a surge of cold sweat pooling at the nape of his neck. This was not just about money or fame anymore. This felt sinister, like a game with deadly stakes. "Luke, don't answer it. We can't trust this." Donald's voice quivered with urgency. But the question drilled into Luke's mind, insistent, relentless. What was worth sacrificing? The only ties he had left were fraying and weak. But before he could respond, the lights of nearby skyscrapers flickered and dimmed. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. People's expressions shifted from curiosity to fear in an instant. "Something's wrong," someone shouted. Luke shifted his gaze to the window, where chaos danced like shadows across the concrete jungle. Protests? Or were those riots? And then it happened. A distant explosion lit up the sky, an eruption of color that turned black night into harsh daylight. Luke's heart raced, pounding against his ribs. The drone of the city dropped to a haunting, eerie silence. What was that? Donald's face blanched on the screen, panic lining his features. Before Luke could reply, another message from the app interrupted. "Choose now. Lose everything or risk it all for the truth." The tension in the air shifted, thick and electric. Luke's hands shook, hovering above the screen. He glanced around, searching the crowd, faces twisting in confusion, disbelief and fear. Was this really happening? His thumbs hovered over the option to answer. He could respond, make a choice, or there was another option, an external link. "Search the creator," it suggested in stark letters. Luke's instincts screamed against taking the bait, but something deep inside urged him to understand. As he clicked, the app revealed startling information. Elon Musk was linked to underground groups, shadowy corporations, and the unthinkable. Ties to acts of terror planned across the city. What had started as a digital quest for truth was now a live wire, tangled in sabotage and blood. "What the hell?" Luke whispered, his chest tightening with dread. He looked back at Donald, who was now pale as a ghost. "This isn't just an app. It's a weapon." Donald's breath quickened. "We need to get out, to warn people." But as he turned to leave, another notification lit the screen. One neither of them wanted to see. "You have 1 hour to decide. Reveal the truth and risk annihilation, or remain silent and live in lies." The crowd outside had erupted into pandemonium. Shouts echoed, angry and demanding. They were coming to grips with a darkness they never chose. Luke's instincts flared. Something primal, something desperately human. Time was slipping away. And now he wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for a city spiraling into chaos. In that moment, everything felt connected, fragile threads weaving through the unknown. The decision hung over him like a heavy shroud. He looked at Donald, whose eyes held a sharp hint of betrayal, as if he feared where this path could lead them both. "Luke, we have to go!" Donald urged as sirens wailed in the distance, cutting through the rising storm. But Luke's gaze fell back to the screen, where another question flickered, this one darker, more personal. "What is your greatest fear?" In that moment, he realized the truth wasn't just out there. It was deep within, threatening to unravel everything he thought he knew. The tension in the air was thick with impending doom. The world around them was shifting, and they were standing on the edge of something vast and unknown. What would they choose when the next question hit? Luke's breath caught. Donald's jaw clenched. The silence screamed louder than any warning. The question flickered on the screen, bold and foreboding. What is the secret that binds you to your greatest enemy? All at once, their phones vibrated violently. People stared at their screens, confusion morphing into panic. In that fleeting moment, a high-pitched alarm sent shudders rippling through the street. The city shifted, taking on a dangerous aura. Something electric charged the air. Luke's heart raced. He thought of the enemies he had made, the grudges that ran deep. But what if he was already connected to a far greater foe? He stole a glance at Donald. Fear was etched in the lines of his forehead. A man who had once been indomitable, reduced to a shell. Luke's gut twisted. Before he could think, the app surged again, feeding them a shocking truth. It wasn't just a question. It was an ultimatum. The Creator knows your secrets, and if you dig deeper, you'll unearth something that could change everything, forever. A pulse of dread crashed over him. Luke had always thought that Musk's fame was a fortress. But what if the man behind the app held their darkest truths? The next moment shattered the night. A fireball streaked across the sky, airing through the clouds, slamming into a skyscraper in the distance. An explosion rocked the pavement. Windows shattered. Screams filled the air, mingling with the crackle of notifications from the app, now going into overdrive. "Run!" someone shouted. But Luke stayed rooted, eyes glued to Donald's pale face, disbelief rushing in. Was this truly just an app asking questions? Or was it a catalyst for chaos? "The city is coming apart," Donald yelled, his voice edged with terror. "They're coming for us." Luke's mind raced. Who's coming? He glanced around, searching for answers, but panic swept through those around him like a wildfire. People sprinted past, a blur of expressions: fear, confusion, betrayal. The truth, Donald's words, sliced through the chaos. Musk is dangerous. It's bait for something much larger. We're just pawns in his game. Suddenly, Luke heard it, a haunting chant ripple through the crowd. "Down with the system!" It echoed, bouncing off the steel and glass. People were turning against each other, fueled by fear and the dark secrets trapped inside their phones. Often betrayal birthed unity, but this felt different. This felt like a storm. Then came the scream, not born of the chaos, but from Donald. The screen split again, darkening as a face emerged through the glitch. Pixelated but unmistakable, a member of Luke's past he hoped to forget. A figure he'd betrayed in a desperate grab for power. The voice came through, deep and familiar. "You thought it was over? You sealed your fate, Luke." The world tilted beneath Luke's feet. The twisted connections began to unfurl in his mind. His past sins were alive, breathing within the city's veins. This was bigger than answers or redemption. The app lit up once more. They both leaned in, dread pooling in their bellies as the ultimatum flashed. Do you dare to uncover the truth behind your bonds? Will you risk everything to expose the Creator's true vision? The ground trembled. Luke's heart pounded like a drum as panic surged through the crowd. The walls were closing in, but the choice lay before him, a dark road he must decide to travel. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. What would they uncover next? The ground trembled. Luke's heart raced as he stared at the app's blaring ultimatum. The weight of the question hung heavy, pulsing in his mind. What is the secret that binds you to your greatest enemy? People murmur around them, the fear palpable, the tension thickening. Was this really the moment to choose? A part of Luke screamed to run, but another part, curiosity, dread, ambition, held him there. Then a piercing scream sliced through the air. It came from just behind the crowd. Bodies turned, heads jerked, fear igniting into chaos. Luke's eyes shot to Donald. What's happening? But before Donald could reply, they all felt a shockwave, a blast of heat from the explosion, pushing them back. The double glass doors of a nearby shop shattered, raining down sparkles like deadly confetti. "No!" Donald yelled, struggling against the throng, but it was too late. The crowd surged forward, panic spreading like wildfire. Luke stumbled, trying to keep his footing, adrenaline surging through his veins. His thoughts raced. This wasn't just an app anymore. It was war. Secrets were weapons, and he was caught in the line of fire. The air was thick with smoke and screams. He saw shadows dancing through the chaos, familiar faces twisted in fear. Then, between the billowing smoke, he spotted her. Emily, eyes blazing, face stern. "What are you doing?" Luke shouted, trying to throw his voice above the storm. Her gaze locked onto his, a mixture of anger and pain behind her resolute expression. "You doing? You stirred the pot, and now you're part of the chaos." The app buzzed again. Luke's thumb hovered over the screen. Another question flashed in bright letters. "What will you betray to keep the truth hidden?" Luke felt the world narrow down to nothing but that question and Emily's accusing eyes. Before he could respond, a loud crash echoed above them. Debris fell, smoke curled, and then the air changed, shifted into something colder, more sinister. With a heart-stopping thud, a massive chunk of a nearby rooftop collapsed, sending echoes of despair spiraling through the crowd. In the midst of the rubble, a tall figure emerged, a silhouette against the smoky gray. Luke's breath caught in his throat. It was Morgan, bloodied but alive, perched on a pile of debris like a phoenix. "Look what you've done," he roared, voice strong despite the chaos around him. "No, you don't understand," Luke shouted back, desperation flooding his voice. "I'm trying to fix this. We have to contain it." Morgan laughed, a sound laced with madness. "Fix this? You're in deeper than you know." The app was nothing but a distraction. We are dealing with something much bigger. "What does that mean?" Donald screamed, his voice cracking. "What are you part of?" But before Morgan could reply, the air crackled with a dangerous energy. Luke's app lit up once more, and this time, the screen showed something unexpected. Fleeting images played, a montage of alliances, betrayals, faces well known and unknown. But one face froze Luke's heart, his own. Chills raced down his spine as the realization hit him like a freight train. The bonds that tied them together, the stakes of the game, were more than he could process. Then it all clicked. The app was a part of something larger. A scheme designed not just to reveal the truth, but to manipulate them all. And he was somehow in the center of it all. Morgan stepped forward, eyes flashing with a dangerous light. "Do you remember why you turned on me, Luke? What you sacrificed? There are no secrets left now." Luke felt the world spin. The walls closed in, and the smoke thickened, each inhalation becoming heavier. He could feel his life unraveling, truth collapsing in on itself. Everything Luke believed shattered in that instant, the very ground beneath him trembling with its weight. And then, as if the universe itself decided to twist the knife deeper, the app surged one last time. When it lit up, it revealed their haunting fate. "Would you sacrifice innocence for your own salvation?" Luke stared, breath caught in his throat. The question echoed, weaving through the chaos, shaking him to his core. In the eye of this raging storm, he could only wonder, who would pay the price? And when it all unraveled, would he still be standing? Or would the truth consume him whole? The ground trembled. Luke stared, heart pounding, as the app displayed its chilling ultimatum. "Would you sacrifice innocence for your own salvation?" Instead of answering, panic surged within him. His head spun, overwhelmed by the unfolding chaos. The world felt like it was unraveling, an entire city caught in the storm of questions no one could answer. The air thickened, crackling with tension, as the app buzzed violently again. Luke clutched his phone, eyes wide, feeling every heartbeat in his chest. And then came the notification, a stark message, transforming everything. "Time's up. Choose now." Darkness loomed. The crowd's anxiety morphed into something primal, fingertips tingling, breaths quickening. Luke glanced at Donald, who looked absolutely terrified. In that electrifying moment, Luke's heart sank. They didn't have time. Just then, the sky split open above them. A piercing siren blared, drowning out everything. Eyes darted upwards as a massive military drone swooped closer, whirring ominously. A deafening roar filled the air. "This can't be real!" Luke shouted, scrambling backward, nearly losing his footing as the world streaked into chaos around him. Loud cracks echoed thunderously, and debris rained down. "What's happening?" Donald's wide-eyed gaze met his, the two locked in a shared terror. And then an explosion roared from above, flames erupting, sending a wave of heat crashing over them. Screams echoed. Sounds of panic turned into a symphony of disarray. Among the chaos, the app buzzed again. But Luke barely paid attention. He covered his head, frantically searching for a way out. The crowd surged wildly, people pushing and shoving, desperate to escape the inferno igniting the night sky. And in all of this, one face broke through the smoke. Emily, standing tall as fire danced around her, defiant and fearless. "Stop!" she screamed, voice slicing through the madness. The crowd fell silent, all eyes drawn to her. "Emily?" Luke exposed a breath, heart racing with disbelief. "What are you doing? Get out of here! We have to expose it." Her voice was strong, but trembling. "It's the only way." She raised her phone high, ready to share the truth. But at that moment, the app buzzed one final time this night. Everyone watched in horror. The message glowed brighter than before. A choice must be made to unveil the traitor within the circle. Then, Emily dropped to the ground, her phone slipping from her hand, shattering upon impact. Luke's heart seized. No! Emily! He lunged forward, but a fiery blast erupted from the drone, causing chaos to erupt anew. That was supposed to save me! She screamed through gritted teeth, struggling to her feet, her eyes fierce yet frantic. There's no guarantee! It's all a web! Just then, a sinister realization clawed its way into Luke's mind. The app wasn't meant just to expose. It was engineered to bring destruction, to tear them apart. Then it happened. An aftershock of silence. A sudden loud crack, followed by Emily collapsing fully. Panic surged. Uncertainty shadowed every face. "Get back!" shouted someone in the crowd. Luke froze. "No, Emily!" He reached out, but horror seized his limbs. Amid the chaos, another figure emerged, cloaked in smoke. It was Morgan, a twisted smile carving his face. "You didn't think it was over, did you?" he sneered, stepping into the dim light. This was the plan all along! Luke's heart raced. Morgan knew. Immobilized by shock, Luke felt bile creeping up his throat. "What do you mean? What's happening?" "Everything you've worked for, everything you thought you knew, it's all a game." Suddenly, amidst gasps, the app flashed one last time. And this time, it revealed something shocking. A name? Lucia Palmer, the creator of Truth Dive, but more than that, the architect of the unraveling chaos. Luke's face went pale. Lucia was family. "You're lying! Why? She wouldn't!" But the truth raged through the air, dark and twisting. Everything felt wrong. Friends, enemies, secrets, betrayal. What was real? The world around them fractured like the screen of Emily's shattered phone. Choose! Whom do you trust? When the dust settles, who will you sacrifice? The silence roared, and somewhere deep inside, a pulse twisted with dread. Could it be true? Light exploded as all hesitated, eyes narrowed into blades of uncertainty. Trust was now a weapon, and Luke, he could feel the tremor of fate unfurling. What if saving Emily meant unleashing hell? Would he dare? The path was dark, but it had to be walked. This wasn't just a question anymore. It was a reckoning, and the city loomed ahead, a colossal battleground. Would they fight? Would they perish? What secrets still lay beneath the surface? And who would emerge, reborn from the wreckage? The chaos erupted like a volcano. Smoke billowed and the air crackled with tension. Luke felt the tremors beneath his feet, the ground shaking as if the city itself had turned against them. Donald's face twitched with fear, terror etched in every line. The weight of the question hung over them. Would you sacrifice innocence for your own salvation? Time froze. It felt like the universe was holding its breath. The sirens screamed, the machines whirred, and in that moment, Luke knew. This wasn't just about him. It was about everyone. Emily! His voice broke as he rushed to her side. She lay there, struggling to rise amid the chaos. "Get up! We need to move!" But her strength was fading. The firelight cast shadows across her face, revealing the anguish in her eyes. I can't leave you," she gasped, pain creeping into every word. Something snapped inside Luke. "No! We're doing this together!" He gathered her into his arms, ignoring the flames licking closer. Behind them, Morgan laughed, his voice cold and calculating. "There's no escape for you now. You've unleashed forces beyond your control." Suddenly, the app buzzed again, the screen lighting up ominously. Choose who to betray to survive. Luke's heart raced. Betrayal? Was that the only way out? He felt the crushing weight of decisions. Memories flashing through his mind. Thin, frail threads, all connecting to his past. "We can't trust him," Donald shouted, backing away from Morgan. "This is all a trap." "Enough!" Luke roared, panic igniting into fury. "We're done with games!" He turned back to Emily, shaking, desperate. "I won't let them take you away from me." In that moment she nodded, determination flickering in her hazel eyes. They shared a look, a bond that burned brighter than the flames around them. Luke's phone buzzed violently, the choices morphing into a twisted web of fate. But amidst it all, he felt something shift inside him. Clarity, rising through the fear. He could change everything. "Emily, we need to expose the truth, not just for us, for everyone." She nodded again, tightening her grip on his hand. But Morgan stepped closer, smirking. "You think they'll listen? You have nothing left to bargain with." "Not yet." Luke's voice was steady, rising above the chaos. "But I have one last card to play." He tapped into the app, heart racing as he sent a final message to everyone. "It's all a facade. Unmask the puppeteer." The app trembled, unraveled. The truth cascaded through screens across the city. Secrets, lies, and skepticism drowned Morgan's smirk. He faltered, eyes wide with realization. I didn't think you'd dare," he stuttered, the power shifting. Around them, the crowd gasped, the tide turning. The chanting crescendoed, fueled by anger and betrayal, a chain reaction. The city was awakening. And in that turmoil, Luke felt something shift within. The shadows began to lift. They formed a link. Millions connected through shared truths. Emily clutched Luke's arm. "We've started something, but will it be enough?" Suddenly, the machine above roared, vibrations rattling the ground. The drone spun in the air, its ominous noise echoing all around. Luke held his breath, waiting for the fall. But beside him, Donald stood tall. "Not if we stand together!" he yelled, defiance etched in every fiber of his being. The crowd surged, faces lit with conviction. And then the impossible happened. The drone sputtered, losing control as the bond of people grew stronger. An unstoppable force against the chaos. The fire started to fade. The sound of explosions quieted. "Let's go," Luke hollered, grabbing Emily's hand as they pushed through the throng. Together, they darted toward the exit, hearts pounding, but hope rising. They ran into the dawn, the city awakening behind them. In the aftermath, they stood as one. The truth was laid bare, divisions crumbling. Luke, Emily, and Donald faced new light. Would they rebuild from the ashes? Only time would tell. But in that moment, they were alive. They were free. And somewhere, beyond the chaos, the app flickered one last time. A warning. The game was never truly over. You have to subscribe now. Don't wait a second longer. Exclusive stories are coming your way. Smash that like button. Let the algorithm know you're ready. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about the end. and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. This is the moment to show your support.